Ok. Vou ser gravado. Boa noite. Eu, em primeiro lugar, gostava. I'm going to say some words in Portuguese and after that I switch into English, ok? Gostava de agradecer o convite que a Isabel Barreto e este projeto me fizeram para estar aqui. Meu nome é Júlio Santos. Eu vivo por trás desta montanha aqui, já, 10 minutos. É um prazer estar aqui, um privilégio estar aqui com vocês, está bem? So now in English, I wrote 7 pages to read and talk to you about my, I don't know, my personal experience, why Isabel told me to come here to talk a little bit about, I don't know, of myself, what I'm doing for my community in the other side of the mountain. About some experience of I don't know, my personal experience. And if you allow me, I'm going to read slowly and talk at the same time. And I think I understood that by the end there will be some Q&A questions if you are interested. Okay. So thank you for the invitation. When I was invited to come here to talk today, I immediately thought of getting some inspiration. And why? And I look back to my childhood. Right now, I am living in a special phase of my life, I must confess, a moment of synthesis. To a great extent, I am returning home. Home, it means my village in the other side of the mountain. In the geographical, philosophical, and even spiritual sense of the word, I'm returning home. Experiences in childhood, particularly those associated with home, play a significant role in shaping who we become. Mainly because I am with other members of my family, helping to do my best to take care of my parents. So I'm a carer of my parents now. My mother is 92 and my father is 95. They are living in the village there called Insal, which is a funny name from maybe Greek origin. There is a long story about my village. I'm researching it as well. Which is, so on the other side, 10 minutes by car from here. I was very privileged in my life. I had the chance to live my childhood in the village until I was 11 years old. I did my primary education there. Looking back, I am amazed at the childhood that happened to me. These were years full of learning, building yourself, and magic. I reflect upon the 4 spaces, in Portuguese, lugares, that have shaped my first years and certainly those which followed. The first lugar, the first place, the first space is family and friends. The second one maybe is church and spirituality. The third one was school, teaching and learning. And the fourth one was nature. I was living surrounded by these places, by these lugares. I remember that sense of freedom during my childhood, playing in the field, walking barefoot, looking for nests, climbing trees. I can climb the trees right now, and I'm very old, so but I'm not afraid to go climb the trees. Actually, my children, they cannot do that. They are afraid, but they are still learning. Very often, the poem, The River of My Village, by Alberto Caeiro. You know Alberto Caeiro, the Portuguese students here, Fernando Pessoa, one of the heteronyms of Fernando Pessoa, comes to my mind when I'm going, and I'm going to read an excerpt, a little bit of that poem, which means a lot to me and links with my village, the river of my village, and I don't know, I'd like to read a bit of this poem, which goes like this. The Tagus, which is Tejo, the river Tejo, I think you all know. The poem is like this. The Tagus is more beautiful than the river that flows through my village. But the Tagus is not more beautiful than the river that flows through my village, because the Tagus is not the river that flows through my village. The Tagus descends from Spain and crosses Portugal to pour into the sea. Everyone knows this. But few know what the river of my village is called, and where it goes to, and where it comes from. And so, because it belongs to fewer people, the river of my village is freer and larger. The Tagus leads to the world. Beyond the Tagus, there is America, and the fortune of those who find it. No one ever thought about what's beyond the river of my village. But actually, I know what is beyond the river of my village, because when I was a child, I used to walk and play a lot in the small village of this particular place, the particular place. After primary education here, I went to study in Braga. I left home for a long time. I remember the day when I arrived in the boarding school in Braga, my parents took me there. In the Museum Paredes de Cor, there is a permanent exhibition called Fingerprint, Impressão Digital, Fingerprint. My suitcase, which accompanied me in my studies in Braga, is there in the museum, still there in this permanent exhibition. Along the suitcase which my father, still a teenager, took when he had to leave to another village to run a local shop in Bico, a village nearby. My father went to work as someone helping with the local shop when he was 12 years old. And that object, that suitcase, became a symbol for me and for all those who left either for work, leaving the to work in Lisbon or in the different cities, to study. A minor number at that time. At that time, maybe 3 of us went to study. My colleagues from that time, they all migrated to the United States, to France, to Germany, to Brazil. Everyone left. Or to migrate. Later in my life, suitcases began to populate my life. Some pieces of the world entered in my suitcase. That special one, which is in the museum, means a lot to me. A great investment that my parents did to give me an education. I am eternally grateful to them for that opportunity. Education, migration, travels, all this has left a big mark on me. In the words of Michel Serres, I think there is someone from France here. Yeah. Michel Serres is a great philosopher. He wrote, in the words of Michel Serres, and he says, there is no travel without learning, and no learning without travel. I imagine that you do this. Talking about education, during my childhood, I learned to listen to stories. My uncle and my aunties, they were experts in storytelling in my village. My mother still is, although she has lots of memory problems, so she can remember stories, very old stories. At that time, there was no electricity. When I grew up, there was no electricity. However, the stories they used to tell entered and illuminate those long winter nights. It was for me a sort of ritual of initiation in literature. This also was definitely part of a traditional education, a form of education which is valued in many parts of the world, as you know, because it emphasizes endogenous and contextualized knowledge, which is very relevant in today's world. For instance, when you are dealing with climate change, with the question of risks, with agriculture. I'm learning a lot with my father, who is 95, on how to do agriculture, plantation, take care of the land, etc., etc. Education has become a crucial foundation of my life. At the university in Braga, I did a first degree on French, Portuguese, and education. In '84, I left this country to teach in Slovakia, France, and Angola. I was in Clermont-Ferrand for 2 years.
Oh,
you are from Clermont-Ferrand?
from Paris.
From Paris. Okay. He was in Clermont-Ferrand. And after that, to do my postgraduate studies in the UK, in England. I spent around 17 years outside this country. I am now a teacher at the Escola Superior de Educação Paula Francinete in Porto, near the Marquês, Metro Marquês in Porto. I teach education and development, global citizenship education, and education in emergencies. I am co-responsible for a Center for Global Education and Cooperation. I believe in the transformational power of education and the possibility of learning to live together through education. If you educate, if you talk to other people, if you travel to learn, if you are a global citizen with a critical conscience of the world, I think you can help to build a better world, a peaceful world. This echoes the words of Mandela in an extraordinary book that I strongly recommend you read. The title of the book is A Long Way to Freedom. Maybe you heard about this. And I'm quoting Mandela. He wrote, education is the great engine of personal development. It is through education that the daughter of a peasant can become a doctor, that the son of a minor worker can become the head of the mine, that a child of farm workers can become the president of a great nation. It is what we make out of what we have, not what we are given, that separates one person from another. I do believe a lot about this. I'm going to repeat. It is what we make out of what we have, not what we are given, that separates one person from another. He also said, Mandela, education is not a race, it's a journey. It's a long walk. He lived the pedagogical life, Mandela, learning all the time, learning in prison, learning in political life, learning the spirit of African philosophy. Returning home, as I said at the beginning, I am to a great extent returning home. This means for me asking the following questions. What can I do to my community, for my community, and for my village? In Insal, the name of my village, there is a local culture and sports association which I helped to found 45 years ago. The idea of the role of education as a contribution to development is a powerful one for our present and for reflection and take action for building sustainable futures. My village, like other small communities, they have this potential for create social change, social cohesion through non-formal artistic and educational activities. I did experiment this and it works. Through theater, I'm collaborating with the local association and we invent our own theater, participatory theater. We invent our own musics. We bring our words from the experience of each person. However, we need to strengthen the networks at the individual institutions and projects to articulate different types of knowledge from differentiate types of education, recognizing and valuing the public space of education. I believe that education is not only in schools or universities, it's everywhere. You are learning in this country, it's a totally different space for education. There is many spaces for education, formal, non-formal, informal. You can learn. I'm learning a lot with my parents because, as I said, I'm taking care of them, or I'm learning to take care of people, very old people, which is dealing with vulnerability, living with fragility in life. And this is a big lesson for me. I must say, I'd like to share this with you. And I'm going to conclude already. So I would like to leave you with I knew of a very interesting initiative called in Portuguese Carta Aberta pelo Direito ao Lugar. It's an open letter for the right to live in your own place. I don't know if you heard about this project. This is a sort of collective positioning, identifying reasons that force people to forego living in place they identify with, feel connected to, and feel they belong to. It also contains a broad set of measures that seek to protect the right to place and respond to the problem of loss of resident population in rural areas. This is a big problem, as you know, a big challenge for villages here, around here in Perescor, not only in Perescor, but in my particular village, there is an exodus of people living in the village, and some people, they want to stay in this place. This is having the right to stay in your place, but you need particular conditions, you need measures, you need political measures, you need participation, you need involvement, the community, you need promote people that can be change agents and do things for your community. And in large city centers, these measures are proposed to different levels of political power at the local, at the central, even at European levels, and to the leading. So, and I'm going to finish with a sentence which I think can be a sort of conclusion, resume. The only way to be universal is to be particular. I've learned this because I lived in a particular place, in a very small place. But maybe this is something that also I'd like to share with you. If you try to understand what is going on in your small community, in your small village, you can also transform these things and they become universal as well. So the only way to be universal is to be particular. Thank you for listening.